The venue, only water is permitted here.
Now to the ceremony itself. We won't be singing the national anthem as is our custom normally, but instead we'll be listening to an instrumental rendition of it directly after the procession has entered the hall. The presiding officer at this particular ceremony is the Chancellor, Justice Edwin Cameron. When we get to the awarding of degrees, graduates will be called up onto the stage, but in order to comply with COVID regulations, there won't be any handshaking with the presiding officer or hooding by the registrar, Dr. Ronel Retief. Instead, please walk up to the presiding officer, exchange nods, and then turn around for photographs and acknowledgement by the audience. Members of the audience are welcome to take photographs, but please switch off the sound and flash first. In fact, please keep your cell phone on silent for the duration of the ceremony. At the conclusion of the ceremony, once the procession is left, we respectfully request that you exit the hall and the building swiftly, so that cleaning and preparations for the next ceremony may commence as soon as possible. Kindly ensure that you take along any waste items, such as water bottles and so on, when you exit the venue, and dispose of these safely in bins outside. Please don't congregate in the foyer to avoid a concentration of people. That's for your photos and selfies, but go outside, use the beautiful backdrop of Victoria Street as your backdrop for photographs. And the official photographers have also set up a place for official photographs there at the banner of the university. You will also find the Marty Shop mobile unit outside, if you haven't seen that yet, for purchasing Stellenbosch University branded items to remind you of the successful academic journey that you've concluded today. Dames en here, baie dankie vir die geduld met die talle aanwysings. Ons is amper klaar. Dis egter in almal se belang. In this time of COVID-19, we have hybrid graduation ceremonies. This one is one of 11 small physical ceremonies on the Stellenbosch campus. The other degrees, right through from undergraduate to honours and masters, are being conferred during online faculty-based ceremonies that have been pre-recorded and scheduled for release on YouTube. Please check the university's homepage for information about when these go live, in case you have friends or family in those ceremonies. A piece of good news, in this time it's possible for us to live stream this event. So in case you were not aware of this, you are welcome to share the following web address with family and friends anywhere in the world. They can follow proceedings here as they take place. The address is www.sun.ac.za/streaming. Please note that load shedding may interrupt internet connectivity. We haven't had any notice of that, but it may happen. And therefore also live streaming will be interrupted. But you will be able to access a recording of the event as of tomorrow on YouTube via the same streaming page. Load shedding, if it occurs, will however not influence this ceremony itself. We have a generator on standby, and if there's a power outage, please remain seated while we switch to emergency power. You are welcome to share your graduation experiences as members of the audience and as graduates on social media, and the hashtag we use is #SUGrad. If you do use that, if you do go on social media during the ceremony, you're welcome to, but just remember to keep your phone on silent. Dames en here, ons is bykans gereed om met die plegtigheid te begin. Ons vra dat u sal opstaan vir die akademiese prosesie en sal bly staan tot nadat ons na die nasionale lied geluister het. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the academic procession and remain standing until we have listened to the national anthem. Thank you. Baie dankie. Enkosi kakulu.
Goedemorgen, dames en heren. Wayne, good morning. It's a great pleasure to see you here. We begin proceedings, ons begin vandag se terugvinder met die volkslied, die nasionale lied. We are going to start with our national anthem, but we're not going to sing it, because even in these reduced circumstances, we are taking extra care. We will start now with the national anthem. Nou my woord om 'n formaliteit hier te maak. I have to convene this congregation of the University of Stellenbosch in order for your degrees to be valid. So I take a moment to do that. Hierdie verklaring volgens die mag aan my verdien deur die statuut van die Universiteit Stellenbosch dat hierdie congregasie behoorlik bygevoeg is. Hereby declare my virtual powers vested in me by the statute of the University of Stellenbosch that this congregation has been validly constituted. I was about to say that we can now get to the fun part, but I want us to pause for a moment and just to reflect before we start the joy and the fun that we will be having in the next 40 minutes here. And that joy and fun is about you. To reflect on the grief and the loss and the mourning and sorrow that the last 20 months have brought us, COVID. Dis nie ons land se eerste vlaag en plaag van virus, besmetting, dood en siekte nie. This is our country's second plague of infection, death and illness. So I'm going to ask, it's sometimes uncomfortable, but let us all pause just for a moment. There's someone that we know who lost a job, someone we know who lost a loved one, maybe you lost loved ones. I've got one employee at the prison inspectorate where my main work now is, who lost 5 family members. So we will just take a moment to reflect or to express our devotional interiority for the next few months. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we get to the fun part. My name is Chancellor of the University university, and it's a fun job. It involves no executive responsibilities. The executive responsibilities and burdens are carried by people on the stage. Professor Villiers, who is the rector. In Europe, he would be called the rector magnificus. Niet gelag. Mevrouw Durfie. Ek was baie oudstaan. Professor Villiers, ons is baie geseend in die universiteit om te hê. Hy het die universiteit deur baie moeilike tye gevat. En aan sy regterhand is sy regterhand, Dr. Ronald die registreer. En dan aan my linkerkant is Professor Teresh Bang-Juggernath, wat ons fisielektor is. En aan sy linkerkant is ons dekaan van letter en wiskunde, arts and social sciences, Professor Tony Lysons. And then the most important person on the stage, who is really the source, together with all of you, of the joy today, is someone whom I cannot mention without a smile. Professor Dr. Marlene van der Kerk. She doesn't need any more honours, because you'll hear from Professor Lysons what an extraordinarily creative, learned, wonderfully productive and distinguished, internationally distinguished person she is academically, intellectually, and as an author. So, Marlene, I'm going to take this moment of self-indulgence, net vir jou te sê wat absoluut die deeglike en vreugdevolle oomblik hierdie vir my is as Chancellor. And there Marlene is giving me a subversive smile, which is her compliment. So, before we get to the main business, which is to confer your degrees and Marlene's in the course of it, I want to say what a real delight and honor it is for me to be here with you. One's graduation is a momentous event, and that's why we have taken special trouble from last year to keep the graduation ceremonies going, even though it's been difficult. Last year, this time, the President announced a lockdown on the Sunday evening before graduation week, and he reduced the number, but we were able to keep inside the reduced number. So the challenges have become more intense, obstacles have been bigger, but to your credit, you have seen through them all. And to Stellenbosch's credit, and Professor Villiers and Professor Ram-Juggernath and Dr. Ronald Retief's credit and their executive team, we have more learned graduates, master's degrees, doctorate. Is it 143? Jy gaan nie nou sê, ek gaan het sê. See, I can steal the Vice Chancellor's thunder. I'm particularly proud to be at this Faculty of Arts ceremony, which is being graced by one of Stellenbosch's greatest contributions to the letters and the arts, Professor Marlene van der Kerk. An American composer and lyricist, Stephen Sondheim, a wonderfully creative gay man who died about 10 days ago. He said, art in itself is an attempt to bring order out of chaos. And that is certainly true of much of Marlene's creative output and very true of your output as doctoral candidates. 143 doctoral degrees, which is more than last year, a record number of nearly 700 master's degrees just over the next 4 days. We're very, very proud. And to everyone getting their doctorate here today, what an immense achievement, what an immense achievement. How many of you cried? Just at some point, at midnight, did you cry? So you won't admit it. You won't admit it, yes. You cried, yeah. I think it's a matter of tears sometimes, but here you are. And we're very proud of you. We've been live streamed as well. So I want to say one thing. When you come and get your degree, take the moment. You've worked for it. The stage is yours. Turn to your loved ones. Remember it's being recorded. I tried last year without great success to get people to dance. Maybe one of you will dance. Will you dance, man? Sal jy vir ons dans? Die baie. Miskien sal iemand anders dans. But this is your moment. And now we have the presentation of the candidate for an honorary doctorate. Ek sal nou nie kan die daad waarop my voorgestel word die betrokke eregraad verleen. En na die verlening van die graad sal die eregraadiates geleentheid kry om kortliks op die toekenning te antwoord. Daardie kortliks is hier want ek haal dit uit. Ek kan vir 40 minute gesels. En Dr. Van Niekerk talk vir 40 minutes. Ja, die allemaal stem. So, daarna sal ons die geleentheid kry om verder te gaan. Meneer die dekaan, wie gaan die kandidaat voorstel? Of wie gaan dit doen? Professor Rektor, ek is baie jammer. Die rektor maar net nie gestaan die kandidaat voorstel.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you Professor Marlene van Niekerk with a request that you confer on her the degree Doctor of Philosophy, honoris causa. The decision by Council and Senate to award her this degree was taken on the grounds of the following considerations. Professor Marlene van Niekerk has had an immense impact on the Afrikaans literature and literary landscape, not only through her own writings, but also through educating well-known authors and winners of literary awards. An extremely productive author, Van Niekerk has garnered 20 local and international awards and prizes. And in 2011, she received the National Order of Ikamanga Silver in recognition of her outstanding intellectual contribution to the field of literary arts and culture through poetry, literature and philosophical works. As 'n uiters produktiewe skrywer, oes Professor Van Niekerk 20 plaaslike en internasionale toekennings en pryse in, en sy het dan die Nasionale Orde van Ikamanga Silwer toekenning ontvang in 2011 vir haar buitengewone intellektuele bydrae tot die gebied van die letterkunde en kultuur deur poësie, letterkunde en filosofiese werke. Sy is die skrywer van die poësiebundels Sprokkelster, Groenstaar en Kaar, die bundel kortverhale Die vrou wat haar verkyker vergeet het, en die romans Triomf, Agaat en Memorandum. Dan is daar ook 'n verhaal met skilderye saam met kunstenaar Adrian van Zyl, die 4-ledige roman Die Sneeuwslaper en 2 bundels ekfrastiese poësie. Definisie wat op kuns reageer, in Afrikaans en Nederlands, en Gesant van die Mispuls en In die stille agterkamer. En sy het die Hertzogprys vir prosa en vir poësie ontvang, en het ook die Universiteit van Johannesburg sy letterkundige toekenning reeds 3 keer gewen, in die kategorie vir romans, vir kortverhale en vir poësie. Haar roman Agaat alleen is in Engels, Nederlands, Frans, Duits, Sweeds, Noors en Italiaans vertaal, en 40.000 kopieë is net in Nederland en Swede verkoop. Buiten vir die letterkundige waarde daarvan, het haar werk ook beduidend tot navorsing bygedra. Haar oeuvre is die onderwerp van 6 doktorate, meer as 25 meestersthesisse en meer as 60 vakkundige artikels. Die navorsingsimpak van haar publikasies strek verder as die wêreld van letterkunde, en het ook studies op die gebied van die geneeskunde, die regte, die politiek, geskiedenis en musiek opgelewer. Van Niekerk, who retired from Stellenbosch University's Department of Afrikaans and Dutch in 2019 as a distinguished professor, developed the successful master's program in creative writing. Many students who have completed this program have proceeded to become established authors themselves and have won a range of literary awards, including Hertzog prizes. In addition to graduates from the formal writing program, Van Niekerk also mentored a range of other scholars and authors, including several award winners, and served as supervisor for students of Afrikaans and Dutch, literary translation, and biographical writing. Meneer die kanselier, ek versoek hiermee dat u die graad dokter in die filosofie honoris causa toeken aan professor Malien van Niekerk vir haar ontsaglike impak op die Afrikaanse letterkunde en die globale letterkundige landskap, vir haar unieke bydrae tot die Departement Afrikaans en Nederlands in die Universiteit Stellenbosch se fakulteit Lettere en Sosiale Wetenskappe, en vir haar toewyding aan die ontwikkeling van 'n nuwe geslag skrywers en vir die vrygewigheid waarmee sy haar kennis deur die akademiese dissipline deel.
Hiermee ken ek die graad dokter in die filosofie en lettere en wysbegeerte, honoris causa van Malien van Niekerk. Met groot genoeg.
Geachte meneer de kanselier, meneer de vice-kanselier, dames en heren, my dank aan die Universiteit van Stellenbosch vir hierdie besondere en eervolle toekenning wat vir my 'n aanmoediging is om steeds weer van vooraf te probeer. Die probeerdery van 'n sogenaamde skrywer hou in dat mens die begin van 'n storie probeer ontdek en vervolgens die einde uitstel. Die omweg na die einde moet maak dat die leser die eerste sin van die verhaal al hoe beter verstaan, maar sonder dat sy die afloop kan voorspel en sonder dat sy durf om die hele middel oor te slaan om gou die laaste bladsy te lees. My pa, as hy nog sy woorde gehad het, sou gesê het, 'n goeie storie is soos 'n snoek, wat net uit kop en penskant bestaan. Jy eet die hele ding ewe lekker en daar is nie droë dele nie. Dis by hom dat ek die belangrikste knypies van die vak geleer het. Dit is ook vir my besonder dat my bejaarde moeder nog uit haar stoel in die kliniek kan saamkyk op YouTube en omdat my partner Henda Strydom uit Nederland gekom het vir hierdie geleentheid. Dis wonderlik, baie dankie dat jy vandag hier is saam met my. My dank verder spesifiek ook aan die Departement van Afrikaans en Nederlands en die fakulteit vir die ruime middele wat tot my beskikking gestel is, vir hulle ondersteuning en vir stimulerende en belangstellende kontak. My studente was goeie leermeesters, deur hulle foute, sowel as hulle moed om steeds weer te probeer en ook deur hulle onverbeterlike ydelheid in sommige gevalle. Uiteraard was die instelling van my pos en die leeropdrag van die skepende skryfkunde een wat gepaard gegaan het met die aandien van argumente vir die feit dat skepende skryfkunde 'n vorm van navorsing is en dat dit materiaal kan lewer wat kompleks genoeg is om gewone letterkundige navorsing op die langer termyn te bly stimuleer. En soms moes mens pleit vir die instandhouding van 'n spesialisme waarvan die opbrengste nie so vinnig soos gewone akademiese werk geproduseer word nie en waarvan die waarde soms pas met verloop van tyd duidelik word. Mens vertrou dat skepende skryfkuns sal oorleef as 'n vaardigheid, as 'n ambag, wat mens eers moet bemeester voordat jy vry kan improviseer en vernuwe, soos wat elke saksofoonspeler weet. Mens hoop dat die uitkomste van skepende skryfkunde soos aangebied deur die Stellenbosch Universiteit vreesloos elke vorm van heersende hegemoniële denke sal ondermyn, en wel deur ironie, deur dubbelsinnigheid, deur alteriteit, deur die vreemdmaak van alledaagse taal en persepsies, waarby dit sigself asseblief ook nie al te ernstig moet opneem nie. Ter stigting dus, en tot slot, 'n kort sitaat uit die blog van iemand wat homself noem the crypto-naturalist. Dit is iets wat elke skrywer sal stig. It will edify the rest of us as well. The universe is an ongoing explosion. That is where you live, in an explosion. We absolutely don't know what living is. Sometimes atoms just get very haunted. That's us. When an explosion explodes so hard that dust wakes up, dust thinks about itself and tweets about it. Thank you.
I knew it would be subversive. Marlene, I want to thank you for emphasizing the importance of creative writing as a form of intellectual output, as a form of research, but also as a form of subversion of authority and power. And that's your own creative output as personified. And you added to that a wonderful wryness of irony and humor. You mentioned in your speech the importance in creative writing, but also in research, of ambiguity, of irony, and of challenge to power. We are grateful for your message. I'm very sorry that you didn't speak for 40 minutes. Who else is also sorry? Yes. We are now coming to the part where you are the center. Each of you is the center. And I want to start with people that I know that you will willingly acknowledge. There's a long list of requirements when you assume the supervisory role at Stellenbosch. And I'm not going to read them all out. I hope that you saw them and that you lodged grievances if your supervisors didn't. You didn't? Okay. No grievances. There's still time. But the fact is that in that process that Marlene spoke of, the passage of human knowledge and also hope of human insight, supervisors are extraordinarily important. May I ask the supervisors who are present here to stand, please? Thank you very much. And I want to make one point, which is that why we have set aside these graduation ceremonies for doctoral candidates is that it's the highest award that any academic institution, any tertiary institution can make, which is an award that recognizes your contribution to the furtherance of human knowledge and, as I said, we hope of insight. So congratulations, we were determined to proceed, and we were determined to proceed in a way that would accord with COVID regulations, and we're really very, very pleased to be able to do this for you today. So I'm going to ask the Dean now. Mr. Dean, would you kindly present each candidate, and please don't forget, the Chancellor has got a particular wish for one of you or more of you to dance. Your moment, Mr. Dean.
Mr. Chancellor, I'm now going to present the doctoral candidates to you. I'll ask the first one to please come up. Is it Dean? Yeah. Nicola Francis Dean, with dissertation Decentering the Archive, Visual Fabrications of Sonic Memories. with supervision provided by Professor Stephanus Miller. Narisha Yani Diu with dissertation, A Narrative of Slavery, the Representation of Creole, Becoming, in a selection of contemporary Mauritian novels, with supervision provided by Professor Catherine de Touet. Phyllis Nziza Kalele, with dissertation, The Role of Mentoring in the Career Outcomes of the Female Early Career Academics in Africa, a secondary analysis of multi-country data, with supervision provided by Professor Heidi Brzeski. Mr. Chancellor, the candidate has asked that I mention today that he wants to dedicate this dissertation to his late mother. Brian Umaru Kauma, with dissertation, A Social, Economic and Environmental History of African Small Grains in Zimbabwe, from the pre-colonial past to the present, with supervision provided by Professor Sandra Swart. Dorothea Julia Lamprecht, with dissertation, Tygerberg Children's Choir, History and Identity, with supervision provided by Professor C. van Niekerk. Wesley Paul Macheso, with dissertation, Vulnerability and Agency, Queer Representations in Contemporary Literary and Cultural Texts from Sub-Saharan Africa, with supervision provided by Professor Sean William. Sipede Mehraban Bakhbadorani, with dissertation, Veiled Narratives, Reimagining and Reimagining Personal History in Post-Apartheid South Africa and Post-Revolutionary Iran. Mr. Chancellor, I forgot to mention that supervision was provided by Professor Lisbeth Günther. Admire Puri with dissertation, The Verbal and Nominal Morphosyntax of Chua, a grammaticalization approach, with supervision provided by Dr. Alex Andrason. Elna Rousseau, with dissertation, Making Sense of the Message, an analysis of the editor's letter in 3 archetypal South African women's magazines at the start of the 21st century, with supervision provided by Professor Lizette Rabi. Christopher James Shear, with dissertation, Modeling Knowledge Security, Knowledge Security as a Knowledge Management Problem, with supervision provided by Professor Bruce Watson and Professor Martin van der Walt. Antoinette Swart, with dissertation, The Apadana Reliefs at Persepolis, an iconographic analysis with special emphasis on the identity and function of the gift-bearing delegations, with supervision provided by Professor Saki Cornelius. Aletta Jacoba van den Heever, with dissertation, Wilma Stockenstroom as digter van die donker ekologie, met studiebegeleiding verskaf deur Professor Louise Viljoen. Is it Ursula?
Yeah, Ursula.
You want? You don't want the other names. Okay. Eva Weer, with dissertation, Rethinking Past and Future, Identity and Trauma in Contemporary Afro-Diasporic Women's Speculative Fiction, with supervision provided by Dr. Nadia Sanger. Meneer die kanselier, ek versoek u om aan die kandidaate wie se name ook aan u voorgelê is, maar wat nie hier teenwoordig is nie, die onderskeie grade in hulle afwesigheid te verleen. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the degrees on those candidates whose names have been presented to you, but who could not attend in their absence.
I hereby confer on the candidates listed in the graduation booklet the degrees indicated therein in their absence. gebeur hier van die kandidaat gelys, die onderskeie grade inloop. Ons het nou die einde bereik van vandag se rigting, maar ek wil net ietsie sê waarna ek gedink het terwyl Dr. van die Kerk gepraat het. I want to just mention one thing that occurred to me while Dr. van die Kerk was giving her magnificently funny and subversive and succinct oration. We really are in a struggle for truth in our country. We had a struggle for truth with AIDS. I lived through it because I'm living with HIV and I fell very sick with AIDS 24 years ago. And then I got antiretrovirals and they changed my life. And that's why I'm here today. Because of knowledge and science and trust in science and the scientific process. And we had a struggle for truth about President Mbeki and Dr. Mantochabalala and Simon. Was there a virus? Was there AIDS? Was there virology? Why did it affect gay men and black people? All of those things were questions of science and social exploration. And we surmounted that. There's still people who are telling monstrous lies about AIDS, but they discounted. We've got two more struggles for truth. And one is about the same issue as with AIDS, which is virology and science and vaccines. And I think we win in that battle, but it's a hard one. Because there is lie production about vaccines and about the efficacy of vaccines and about the virus, as we have lie production in AIDS. But the other struggle is also an important one, and I was thinking about it as you cross the stage. We are in a monstrous struggle for truth about our country and about the Constitution and about the values. Now, the Constitution is pretty tattered and battered. I'm a judge. I served on our Constitutional Court for 11 years, my privilege. So I know the defects of the Constitution and of the way that we've implemented, and I blame myself partly as well. If you haven't done enough in 27 years. But the insurrection of July, the Zulu faction, they are telling monstrous lies. And your task as new graduates, without assuming a political position, is to do what Marlene has said, which is that in your creative processes of knowledge, exploration and ascertainment, to rebut lies. And the second task that her oration conferred on you was through subversion and through asking questions to challenge power. One of the difficulties, and people sometimes say South African difficulty, it's not. It's a difficulty of Lukashenko in Belarus, it's a difficulty of Nicaragua, of Ortega in Nicaragua, it's a difficulty throughout the world, is the lies that men in power, and they are mostly men. And that's your task. And you're going to do that task as an artist. And there's a pride in being a Stellenbosch graduate, there's a pride in receiving your degree from one of the ascendant universities of Africa. Stellenbosch is now number 2 in South Africa. We don't boast about that because there's lots of space at the top. There's lots of space. We want more excellent tertiary institutions. But Stellenbosch is on the ascendant, and you can be particularly proud. We want you to keep in touch. Blame for London. My Marty's Connect director, My Marty's Connect. Put your details there. Stay in touch with us. And then I want to do one final thing. One general thing and one specific thing. Like to the end of our scheme, specifically the tracking. To recognize your loved ones, your families. And if you can get up and turn around for the live stream and make an expression of appreciation to those loved ones who supported you, let's do that. There's the right speech. And then talking of loved ones, Marlene's partner, who especially come out from Holland, from the Netherlands to be with her, may I ask you to stand as a bit for us in your view? Mevrou van Niekerk, daar waar u in u tuiste voor die televisieskerm of voor die skootrekenaarskerm sit. Ek wil net vir u sê hoe geweldig trots ons almal vandag op die dogter van u is. Baie dankie. My second duty, which is to declare that this congregation of the University of Stellenbosch has been duly concluded. Ek gaan vir u vra, as ons van die verhoog afgaan, dat u bly staande, but I'm going to ask you to rise, because I now declare that this congregation of the University of Stellenbosch has been duly concluded. If you wouldn't mind to rise and to remain standing. Thank you.